Watch and burn.
Hey everyone, so tonight I want to discuss Vangelis, or Vangelis, as a lot of people like to pronounce his name. I know technically it's most likely Vangelis, even though I will argue that saying that, it feels like there's a fork scraping across my teeth. I absolutely hate that pronunciation, so I default out to Vangelis. So please refrain from putting that in the comments. I don't give a fuck if you think you're the ultimate fan because you know how to pronounce his name. It doesn't mean jack shit to me, so just don't put it, even though people like putting that shit because it makes them feel important. So I guess go ahead, put it. If your ego is actually that fragile and you have to try and prove to everybody in the YouTube comments that you are the ultimate Vangelis fan by knocking my pronunciation of Vangelis, then by all means, satiate said fragile ego and put it in the comments and let everybody know that you're superior to me and everybody else on planet Earth. Because really, that's the only thing that seems to matter to these fucking people. But anyways, I am here to discuss Vangelis' Heaven and Hell. And what I like most about this record was this is sort of like the perfect marriage of acoustic instrumentation with like synthetic or digital instrumentation. This record came out right around the time that MIDI was starting to warm up. It technically hadn't been released yet, but the idea of a musical interface, musical instrument, digital interface was becoming something that more and more musicians wanted to harness. The 70s were a massive decade for synthesizer use. A lot of big bands really wised up and realized the power that synthesizers had, and Vangelis was certainly no exception. Well, Vangelis actually was sort of the one in a lot of ways that was leading the charge. This man would take over the whole digital thing completely by the 80s. That's all he used. And what I like about this record is how there is more traditional percussive instruments used. That not all of the percussive elements are digital, or I shouldn't say digital because technically this is still the 70s, but I can't help it, it's a good word to use. Synthetic percussion is apparent, but at the same time there's a lot of traditional percussive instruments used on this record or employed on this record, and I really like that because it's sort of like the marriage of old and new, and it's showing how with somebody as brilliant as Vangelis behind the keys or the sticks, just what can be achieved. And this record is a towering example of that. Now, out of the unfortunately terribly short record, I think this clocks in at barely 40 minutes. It's like pushing 45, I think 40 to 45 minutes. There's only two parts. My favorite is part 2. I found that the vocal elements, they pop quite a bit. And I like how John Anderson was involved with part 1. And I like how John Anderson had a long-standing, fruitful relationship with Vangelis. And I think that's very cool. But for me, part 2 is the superior track on this record because, like I said, the vocal elements really did it for me. They sold it so incredibly well. It has sort of, the vocal elements kind of have like a symphonic quality to them. And I love this record. I love the artwork. I love the vibe I get when I'm listening to this. It's like, on one hand, I totally know I'm back in the 70s when I've got this going, but at the same time, it sort of sounds somewhat futuristic too. Like you could be off in another galaxy doing whatever, you know, in like a galaxy far, far away, not to rip on Star Wars or rip off Star Wars, because I can't stand Star Wars, but it's like this music could fit in so many different places, throughout so many different timelines, and so many different galaxies. Because like I said, it's like this perfect marriage of old and new, and or the past and the future have come together to create this sort of perfect sounding record from somebody who at this point too, technically Vangelis hadn't even went on to do his best work. I mean, this is like the Nemo days, of course, so he was doing a lot of important things, but for me, it's the 1980s era Vangelis is where I feel that he really made his mark. And I think, of course, with Chariots of Fire and Blade Runner, the 80s definitely belong to that man. And I think I'll leave it there because this is pushing 5 minutes. So thank you so much for hanging out with me for a few minutes while I discussed Vangelis' Heaven and Hell. If you liked this review, don't forget to do something nice for somebody. If you like my pronunciation of Vangelis, don't forget to do something nice for somebody. And if you don't, still do something nice for somebody because it's easy and it's fun. Thank you so much, guys. You guys are amazing. I will talk to you soon. Have a good night. I just wanted to say thank you for making it through the entire video. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to remind everyone one more time, even though I've probably already done this in the video that you just watched, to please click the like button as well as the subscribe button because it helps this channel grow. And thank you for hitting like and subscribe, and we will see you guys really soon.